Welcome back, friends. This week we're talking to Kirstyn, a multidisciplinarian. She's a performer, actor, and singer songwriter based in Sydney. In this week's episode, we talk about setting boundaries, Kirstyn's writing process, motorhomes and campervans, traveling, and saying yes to life. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you do too. If you enjoyed this episode, please show your love on Spotify by giving it a 5-star rating. It'll take about 7 seconds and it'll help get these episodes out to more people. You don't even have to write anything, just 2 taps and it's done. All right, love you guys. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the show, Kirstyn. It's so lovely to have you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
So you were born and raised in the UK. You got to tell me, what was life like growing up for someone who's now a singer-songwriter, an actor, and a performer?
I guess it was somewhat shaped by growing up in the UK. Like I spent a lot of time going to see like theatre shows and, my dad's really big into music. So I grew up listening to a lot of music and and obviously in the UK, there's a lot of culture and history and a big art scene. So yeah, it was massively shaped by growing up there, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, whereabouts in the UK was that?
A place called Norwich. It's like it's a city, but it's a very small city.
You have an older sister. How many years older is she?
2 years.
2 years. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you're relatively close together.
Yeah, pretty much. Growing up, I used to call her my little big sister because even though she was the big sister, I was sort of like, I don't know, I would sometimes take the lead a bit. And if people were bullying her, I would be like, you back off. Whereas she was a bit more quiet around other people. When she was with me, she was a psycho.
When you were 10 years old, you moved to Australia. And so this is so exciting because I've been actually looking at YouTube videos about camping and turning cars into campers. And I've actually turned my car into a camper, which I just love.
Oh my God, that's so exciting.
It's so exciting. It's just so freeing, like just waking up and not having to like do any logistics. Like everything's all set up. But when you moved to Australia, you were 10 years old with your family and you guys drove around Australia in a bus. So like just take me back to that time. So what made your parents even decide to do that? How did you do that?
Oh my God. I get asked that a lot. Like, why did you come over here? Why did your parents choose that? And I think as I've gotten older, that story has changed. I think as like a 10-year-old, it was like, my parents just want to go overseas and have a holiday. And like, I didn't really understand. There was maybe more depth than that. I think there was more going on for my parents in their own personal lives and business lives and whatever that kind of prompted this, like, we need a massive life change, which now being an adult, I totally get. But yeah, as a kid, I was just sort of like, I think I thought we were just going on a holiday that we never came back from. But yeah, no, it was amazing. It was really amazing. Like, couldn't compare anything else to it, I guess. Like, I've tried to reinvent it in my own life, like traveling. But yeah, I think living in a bus with your parents and your older sister as a 10-year-old in this whole new country that's so different to where you're from, and you're noticing your accent change and your pasty English skin is turning really tanned. Like it was an experience. It was amazing.
Was it a culture shock?
I don't think, I mean, I was a child, so I don't think there was any shock. I think there was just a lot of intrigue, like a lot of intrigue and, little things. Like I remember me and my sister just could not stop laughing at the fact that people wore things on their feet called thongs. It was hilarious for like 12 months, like it didn't get old.
Were you part of making the bus into a camper, or did your parents sort all of that out and then you just like cruised along and had a ball?
Oh, we were a lot bougier than that. We had like a proper like motorhome.
Wow. Okay, so it wasn't a bus.
So when I say I've tried to reinvent it in my own life, it's been like the low-key, very povo version.
Like the bogan version of like the luxury camper life.
Yeah, I've tried many reiterations of it. And when I was a kid, it was my parents, basically they sold their house in the UK and we just moved to Australia with the money they had taken from England and they bought this motorhome.
That's amazing though. That's so cool. So it's just all your travels went downhill from there. Like that was just like the peak as a 10-year-old.
I think if anything, I wanted to then have travels that were a little more bohemian, a little bit more like living on that line of like, are we going to get through the night, after having this sort of like hotel on wheels as a kid.
I feel like that's a normal part of, if you're brought up in like a, I don't know, a really comfortable home or a comfortable life, you kind of want to separate and just be like, okay, what can I do on my own?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You were known for the singer girl in high school. That was your title. But you decided to study and then go to Wollongong for your studies. You did a year of studying theatre. But you did mention that you had a pretty tough time in high school during the final years, and that kind of followed you through university.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to mention that because I think that was, based on what you wrote to me, it was really the starting point of your journey, and we can't forget the breakdown part and the painful part of like what makes everything so damn beautiful.
Yes.
Like during that time when you were going through a tough time towards the end of your high school years and the start of uni, how did theatre and performance and music help you through that time?
It gave me a place to put it. Yeah, I mean, I think performing for me, even when I was a kid and before drama and trauma, like it was always very cathartic. But something definitely shifted as I had gotten older and gone through some kind of tough experiences where the performance I was doing or the art I was making was, I could relate to it differently. I could approach it differently. It gave me new ideas for how to go about performing and creating. And that hasn't changed, like most of the art that I make is like sort of like an act of catharsis and self-reflection. And I always joke that I don't know how to write a happy song because like my art is usually like this way of, it's almost like therapy,
Yeah. I think that's it for everyone. I find like I do write songs myself, but like you do it when you need it. Like you do it because there's no other outlet. And I personally find like it's not by choice. Like it forces its way out of you and you just have to like nourish it and foster it, whatever this thing is. And then just, just like you can't get it out any other way. That's the problem.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
As artists, we don't voluntarily want to make sad shit.
Yeah. I'm not like, hey, I'm having a really good time at this party, but I'm just going to go be sad for a second because I had this song idea.
B.O.B. Yeah, I know. Oh, that's so true. I mean, that's amazing that you had so many different outlets, but then you eventually you decided at the end of your first year of your studies, you decided to take travel and you had your Eat, Pray, Love.
I certainly did.
What did you find out after you did some traveling and soul searching?
Oh, God. So many things.
Yeah, I bet.
So many things. And I guess things that I'm still figuring out now, things that are recurring themes, I remember like I'd been traveling for about 2.5 years. And I remember being in Holland and just sitting with some friends and saying, I feel really full, but uncomfortably. Like I feel like I'm like a computer that's had a lot of stuff put on it and I'm too full, like I've run out of storage. And I felt like I needed to come home or find a home, stop moving, stop having all of these experiences, lessons, and just sort of like let them settle and integrate and figure out what do I take from all of that? But it was just a lot of, I know it sounds really cliche, but like self-discovery, like figuring out why I am the way I am and how I relate to people, how I relate to the world, how I relate to myself. Why do I act this way with this person? And then when I'm alone, I'm like this, like
Hmm.
Nothing probably all that spectacular, but it was my version of it. But it hasn't ended.
No, I think it just like, I'm sure that was the explosion of which it started, all these questions. And I think that that's so important, and as cliche as it is, travel is that though. Travel changes perspective, it deepens your awareness, and it makes you new.
It really does. And the people that you meet, I mean, I think that's the beauty of traveling. You have no control over who's going to come into your sphere, and you just are constantly having these moments of, wow, I'm being confronted by this person that I haven't chosen. They're just here, and now we're like in a camper van together, or we're living on this farm together, or we're having to do this volunteer work together, and like I'm just having to like live that and be confronted by this interaction, or fall in love with this interaction, or um, keeps you on your toes traveling.
Yeah, it does. And you were talking earlier about that bohemian lifestyle, living on the edge. How did you do that on your travels in terms of just the hustle?
Many different ways. I started my travels because I was working for a humanitarian organization. So they sort of were posting me around lots of places, like across 3 different countries. And so I was working, but it was a very sort of self-driven role where I was interacting with a lot of people, and again, really having to think on my feet. And when that job ended, they sort of offered me a free flight to anywhere. And I'd met this Italian filmmaker who had just sort of become my best friend. So I went to Rome with him. So I lived with him. We started making a documentary, which took us to England. We would couch surfing, ended up living on a farm. It was just sort of like one chapter would end and I'd just figure out, okay, what now? Okay, this will work. We can go live on this farm. I can go stay with this family. I've just met this girl at a festival. I'm going to live with her in a tent and cycle to Denmark. Like it was just like,
Wow.
yeah.
But you would have to be open to those kind of spontaneous adventures.
And I was, and I still am. I'm a yes person. But as I've gotten older, my boundaries have gotten much stronger. I found my no now, but when I was younger, it was far too fun to I didn't want to say no.
So tell us how you found your no.
That's a good question. I honestly think age. I think, my energy is different now. My relationship with myself is different now. I'm more aware of what I don't want as well as do want. I think when you've had a lot of experiences, especially interpersonal experiences, because that's kind of my jam, you start to learn what type of people you don't really want to bring in. And I think when I was younger, I had this perspective of like, I have to be all loving, all encompassing. I want to love everyone and everyone to love me. And now I'm still getting there, but I'm less concerned with needing to like and love everyone and everyone to like and love me, because it's too exhausting and you just can't, it's not possible. So yeah, I guess that's how I found my no, just realizing it's okay to not be everyone's favorite person and everyone be your favorite person.
And I'm sure preserving energy for yourself, to say yes to yourself
Big
for
time.
things.
Big time.
Right?
Yeah, energy is huge. Like my body speaks loudly to me, and if I am feeling fatigued, I get fatigued really easily, and I know it's because I'm spreading myself too thin, or I'm giving too much away or taking too much on. Yeah, so, and as you get older, when you get tired, it's more confronting because you're like, I got shit to do. I got bills to pay.
Like I can't waste my whole weekend.
Yeah, I can't be tired. Like, and if I am tired, I need to stay in and like watch 12 episodes of Girls and like
and refresh and re-energize.
Yeah.
That's really important. But so after your travels, okay, I do want to say though, since we're on the camper van theme as well, you did do a camper van around Europe with your partner at that time. And so how did you do that? How was it different from your parents' luxury?
Oh my God, it was very different. It was very different. I mean, don't get me wrong. my ex Matthew, he did a great job putting this camper together. Like he was Dutch, so he was very like stubborn, like didn't want any help. So I did nothing, and I was like, cool, I guess I'll just wait to live in it. But yeah, no, it was it was great. It was really great. We had put these like red velvet curtains inside of it, and we created this concept called camper concerts. And we basically applied for a bunch of festivals during the summer in Holland, and we would travel to them, and we would perform in front of our velvet curtains and create a kind of like living room situation out the front of the camper with like blankets and pillows and a little like tent if it was raining. And it was super cute. But yeah, not super bougie, you know, like we were cold a lot and we mostly ate noodles. Yeah, but it was great. I loved it. And you know, it's different to being a kid with your parents, to like be traveling as like a 21-year-old in love and being this artist and traveling through festivals and hippie communes, like very different.
That's amazing. And so you came back to Sydney. You decided that you wanted to pursue acting and singing. And what you said, I really want to quote because it's important. You said, I've never been more sure of who I am, felt more capable of achieving my dreams, or felt more proud of who I have become. And I'm fucking exhausted. And I thought that was so important. Tell us more about the exhaustion part of actually being sure of who you are, the grind.
Well, you know, I actually, so 2 weeks ago, I've moved into my own apartment. I've never lived on my own before in a city, especially one that's as expensive as Sydney. And I'm not necessarily that financially secure. I don't necessarily have my shit together or this like super established career. But it sort of goes back to how I was saying before. I'm aware of what I want and what I don't want. And I guess that's exhausting because I feel like when you reach that place, the universe or life or whatever you want to call it tests you. It's like, oh, okay, you sure? So you don't want this, or you really want this, because I'm going to put it in front of you and watch how you respond. And, you know, like even just recently, I had a bit of an experience and I was kind of brushing it off and acting like, oh, that's cool, whatever. I'm not going to over dramatize. And as I said before about my body was like shutting down and I was getting tired. I felt super emotional. And I was like, I need to address this situation and speak my boundary and not feel as though speaking my needs is something that's going to be difficult for someone else to have to deal with. It's like, no, this is for me. Like, even if that person turns around and says, well, you're being dramatic, or what's the big deal? At least I've like made an action that is about me, standing up for myself, speaking my needs, stating my boundaries. And regardless of whether or not the person reciprocates with respect or doing what I need, I have, if that makes sense. And I think I didn't do that a lot when I was younger. I would feel like it's best to roll with what everyone else is doing, than be sure of my own boundaries. Living alone is really, it's created so much space for me. Like I was shit scared to do this, really scared.
What parts terrified you? The being alone part, or just maintaining a home by yourself? What part?
I think being alone, I was worried that I would hate having my own space and being by myself, and would feel really restless and would want to see lots of people. And the opposite has happened. I'm just like, I spent like 2 days just not leaving the apartment because I'm just like lapping up being alone. And I also feel really clear and organized. And, you know, I'm really just, I'm such the type of person, like I fall in love with people hard and fast, and other people's stories are so intriguing to me, and I want to be intertwined with people. But I do really need to know when that needs to stop so that I can recoup and be like, okay, where did they end and I begin, and just ground in that again. Um, and having this space, like I'm noticing when I want to just stay in and not see anyone. And I think it's because I'm like, I don't really want to be intertwined with anyone else's story right now. I need to sit in my own. And even if there's nothing going on, I need to be cool with my story right now is that I'm just drinking a coffee, and that's it. That's enough. That's okay.
You know, I feel like I relate to that a lot because I'm really impressionable. So I'm really careful of who I let in and who I interact with, because if I do, my heart's on my sleeve. And so I can't control the heart on my sleeve, but I am very sensitive and hypersensitive to people's stories and lives. But I think it's so interesting, when you've collaborated so much with people, different people, and you've also been so musically and artistically, you've done a lot of collaborations and you continue to do that. But I think also it's if you're in a relationship as well, how to maintain your autonomy and really understand who you are, without being defined by being related to someone else. And I think that takes time and like you said as well, just generally age, but it's such an important thing. So you're good. You've got your haven, you've got your place.
I mean, I'm getting there. I definitely wouldn't say like I figured it out, it's done, I'm where I've always wanted to be. I'm very much in the beginning of this part of the journey, and I'm still fucking up and getting, and maybe not having my boundaries where I should, or not speaking up when I should, or getting too invested in other people. And I'm the same. I'm so impressionable. I think also like with being a creative, like you want to be impressionable because you're, a lot of the stories I want to tell, yes, they're coming from me, but a lot of those stories are inspired by experiences I've had through others. Like my life is all about relationships, all about relationships. So I feel like this is going to be a constant dance for me throughout my life of like, I'm having this beautiful relationship. I've lost myself. I need to pull away. The pulling away hurts. I don't know who I am now. Okay, I found myself. Oh my God, I feel amazing. And now there's this other person or people or situation. And I think that's life. I don't think you get to this point where you're just like hella zen, like this Buddha living in a cave and nothing can affect you. Like I've dated guys that are like that. And they were the most isolating people I've ever been with because they're so good with themselves that I'm like, why am I even here? Like, I don't know how to relate to this because I want to tap into people and lose myself in people, but then I need to come back. And I think that's where the art comes from, because when I'm with these people, I'm not writing, I'm not coming up with ideas. It's when I'm away from them and reflecting on how tumultuous and chaotic and beautiful and poetic it all was that I can channel it into some form of creativity.
Yeah, and I think how you articulate it. And I think you can't do both when you're in the experience. I mean, I guess you can, but there's still like a sense of living the experience before you articulate the experience. And one way in which you do articulate it is with your music. And I listened to your music on SoundCloud, and I thought it was so relaxing, and I really loved Tribal. I really enjoyed
Oh
Tribal.
gosh.
And I loved the one of Something Under the Sun, something related to the sun. That was really, really good. But I want to know, and they were really different. So I just want to know, I feel like some of your sounds, like some tracks were more like beat related, where your voice is like just a pocket in the beat. And then there are some tracks where your voice was really the focal point of the song and everything revolved around that. And so how would you describe your music to someone?
Yeah, cool. Good question. I think it all ties in with everything we just spoke about. So my journey with music and singing and my voice and how I write and how I perform, it's evolved a billion times, always always based on who I'm working with. And I think being a singer-songwriter, not an instrumentalist, and I don't know how to produce. I can play keys and guitar really basically, but my voice has always been my instrument and my pen. And I think, just tying into what I was saying before, I've always needed to be in relationship with other to be able to birth my ideas. And therefore, how it turns out is such an infusion of me and this other person. And I think I've reached a point now where I'm really trying to figure out what my sound is and how I want to express myself musically purely from me. And I'm always going to need help from others because there are certain tools and skills that I don't have. And I love collaborating like a lot. But I think probably the things you've listened to on my SoundCloud are almost like this history of experimentation. But I've got probably about 10 songs demoed that I want to have finished, and they are all pretty different. I'm really starting to realize that I am a singer-songwriter, and I'm trying to figure out how do I want that to be supported? Do I want it to be like heavily produced and more electronic? Do I want a band? What kind of genre? But I'm also trying not to get too hyper fixated on that, because I don't want to get lost in trying to define myself, then boxing myself in. Because what I have learned of myself is that, like, yeah, I'm very adaptable, I'm very explorative, I'm very curious. And I think that's sort of what I want to express through all these different tracks, is be okay with them all sounding a bit different.
Yeah. Song of the Siren. That was a song. I was just looking it up. I didn't want to say something that wasn't true. Song of the Siren was really nice. And Tribal was really good too. And then you also do also the beats on I think it was Free. It was really good too.
So all of those tracks that you've mentioned, they're all like semi-improvised collaborations I made with Dom.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. So when Dom and I were living together, my ex-boyfriend, current best friend slash biggest musical collaborator, we were living together during the first lockdown. And so we just made heaps of shit. And, he's obviously a fucking genius. So he was making all these crazy beats, and I would just jump on the mic and improvise some stuff. And
that's the best type though. That's so good. Like, it's that organic. And for our viewers and listeners, Dom is one of our guests who has come on the show in our early episode. So do check out his episode.
Yeah,
but
he's incredible.
I know, it was great. His story is really interesting. But I find that I really want to talk about your process. So how does a song come to you?
Quite often it'll be that a particular lyric or even an entire phrase or even like a melody will drop into my head, and I will record it into my phone, just a cappella. Like I'll sing the idea or the riff or the words that are coming through. And sometimes I just have to stop and leave it there. Other times I've sang entire songs into my phone. Or it'll be that I'll be sitting at the keys, and I'm not a keys player. Like, I'm very basic. I'm pretty much just learning. And I used to do this with a guitar, same story. I'm not a guitarist, but it's just that little, it's that little space holder to explore a melodic idea, or for me, it's usually a storyline. And it flows out. Like, I find writing pretty easy, like an entire kind of, it's like it just comes out, and then at the moment I will show it to Dom. I'm starting to work with some other people too, but the last couple of years it's been him, and he's great. He'll just sort of create some kind of foundation for it, and I'll be like, oh no, I don't know about that, or that's not really the feeling. And it's just playing and exploring and tweaking and refining, and then leaving it and not listening to it for ages, and then coming back and oh my God, remember this one? By then I've already sang 28 more songs into my phone. So it's slow, but quite organic, the process, like just letting it unfold naturally. Whenever I try to force something or finish something too quickly, no more words will come or no more ideas will come, because it's not there yet.
Mm. Mm. No, that's super interesting. You mentioned that in your like in your timeline you said that being an artist is different from being an entertainer. Will you talk about that for a minute? What you meant by that?
Absolutely. um I find a lot more freedom slash insecurity in being an artist, because it feels so open. Like there's no one telling me how to be an artist, you know, like it's whatever's flowing out of me and whatever I can capture and whatever feels true. Whereas entertaining, particularly if you're, you know, for example, I'm a wedding singer, or I sing at gigs, you know, that's they're cover songs. And there's plenty of artistic license you can take. You can sing a song completely differently, especially depending on who you're playing with, but ultimately like you're presenting someone else's work. And with things like a wedding or a bar gig, like you're there to create a particular mood, which the people that have hired you want you for. So you've got to be up and on, or not too loud, or, you know, there's more things that you have to adhere to for the service you've been hired for.
It's like a commission-based performance.
Yeah, yeah, and it's fun, and it can be really, in some ways it almost feels less daunting, because you're not really showing up as you, the artist. You're just there to be like, I'm a professional singer and this is my set list and we're just gonna play, you know. But with artistry, it's like, I love it. Like it's getting to know yourself, it's exploring your stories, it's being vulnerable with someone else, and trying to be patient with the process. And there's more intricacy, there's more vulnerability, there's more honesty, I feel. Not at all to say that entertainers or entertaining is, you know, not an incredible skill. It certainly is, but it feels more like a product and a service, whereas artistry feels like bearing your soul and needing to be okay with if nobody cares and nobody likes it. You know, there's no guaranteed end result with being an artist.
Yeah, that's never a thing. And I think that's the risk, right? And that's why the reward is so much greater. And the reward is the process, is what it is. You know, it's the process, and whatever the outcome is, it's great if it goes well, but if it doesn't, how you respond to that is really a testament of your character and who you are as an artist as well. Like, what are you in it for, really? And it's the risk with just like any kind of artist, you know, whether you're a writer or a performer or an actor, or a singer. In regards to your music, what do you feel like? So you have demo CDs, you have demo songs ready. And so have you been giving them out to music labels, or like what's the big dream for you? What do you want to do with music?
Well, I think being sort of like a multidisciplinary creative, for me, it's not as sort of simple as just like make the track, release the track, goal done. You know, I have a bit more of an expansive idea of how I would like to showcase my creations. So with each of my songs, I have some pretty cinematic ideas of how I want to present that visually. You know, being an actor as well and really loving like film and screen work. Yeah, I want to tell these stories in like a broader way. And I guess so currently with the songs that I have that I would like to share, I'm seeing them almost as like chapters in a book, you know, of my story. And I don't know if you're very familiar with like Beyonce's Lemonade album. She kind of did a similar thing, you know, like each song was a different chapter with a different film that went with it. And it was sort of like going through her process of what that album was about. And I'm approaching my body of work in a similar way. But in saying that, I'm also trying to be realistic with how this all works, you know, and like getting a song made costs money, and like getting a video made costs money, and so I'm trying to be patient with the process. I recently met an incredible producer who's become a really good friend, and he really wants to produce one of my tracks, which is sort of like my favorite song of mine at the moment. Like, it's my baby. It's called Be Like You, and it's exactly everything we've been talking about really knowing that you're easily influenced, but then deciding these are my boundaries and I don't want to be like all of you. I want to just know who I am. So it's not necessarily in the book, it wouldn't necessarily be at the start, but I feel like it would be a strong first release. But yeah, I think when it comes to music, I want to finish what I've started, and then I want to present it in a way that I feel really proud of, and that's really true to me.
So you want to curate it. You want to have complete control of the curation of how the song's delivered and how it's made in terms of giving it to people. So you're not really interested in like a record label or anything like that getting signed that way. It's more about how you deliver it however you want.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think when I was younger, I loved the idea of being this like signed artist that was like touring the world, and you know, but at the moment I can't see beyond just this body of work that I want to create, and that it be very like artistic and very like, you know, very raw and real, and I'd love to perform all of the tracks, you know, on stage and do a show. I'd love all the videos to be released. I'd love to have it all on Spotify and share it all over social media. But beyond that, that the step after that, I can't see it, and I'm okay with that. I'm just like really in the process at the moment.
That's amazing. That's a really good place to be, because you're being as present as you are with whatever's happening, which makes sense based on like your travels and everything. You were present then, and now you're present now with whatever's presented to you at this stage. Okay, so tell me, what are you excited about this year? What is coming up for you, and what does this year entail for you?
This year, I'm going to step into being in my star archetype, less of the supporter and more of the star. Share my artistry, find who that is, who I want to be as an artist. Share. Get vulnerable, maintain those boundaries, take care of myself, love my friends, and yeah, roll with the punches, grow, keep creating.
Thanks for coming on the show, Kirstyn.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really lovely.
Well, what did you think? I really loved it. Thanks, Kirstyn, for coming on the show. Until next week. Bye.